Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We've seen all sorts of things so far, but we still haven't talked about Rick and Morty. Today, let's take a look together at the science of Rick and Morty. Welcome back in Science of the Future. So, the coolest thing about Rick and Morty is the portal gun. Yes, I know, it's already crazy as it is, but let's take it slow and analyze everything. I mean, is this really possible? And then, why does he have a gun to do this? So, to begin with, what are portals? Perfect, they are wormholes. But what is a wormhole? That's the fun part. A wormhole is kind of like a shortcut through space-time. Imagine a fold in the fabric of the universe connecting two distant points, like folding a piece of paper and poking holes through the same fold. That way, you can travel from one point to another in an instant without having to travel the entire distance through normal space-time. This concept is widely studied in theoretical physics. And although there is no concrete proof that wormholes really exist, it's a fascinating idea that comes from Einstein's general relativity. Wormholes are still purely theoretical and have never been observed. But they are a concept that fuels many science fiction stories. Now, let's make a more practical theory. Imagine an apple and a caterpillar walking on it. If the caterpillar wants to go from point A to point B on the apple, it would have to cross the surface of the apple. So, it has to go around. But if it dug a hole through the apple, it could get directly from point A to point B without having to go all the way around. And that's the wormhole. Now, let's travel through space-time and see what it is. The universe around us is made up of 4 dimensions, but we only perceive 3 of them: height, length, and depth. But for us, time is a dimension that is very hard to conceive, and it's very difficult to understand the universe around us. So, our universe is actually in 2D. Imagine our planet as a pizza. Around the pizza, there's us. But in reality, our universe is like a trampoline, and it's deformable. However, we would never see this deformation. The planet is not a pizza, but a sphere. What would happen if I placed the sphere on my trampoline? It would create a deformation of the trampoline. I, as a little figurine spinning on it, am sliding on the deformation and sliding toward the bottom of the well. And I don't see this deformation. So, I see a force pulling me in, like a gravitational force. In reality, I am sliding toward the planet. But now, here's the problem. This is a 3-dimensional system. But let's imagine that we are 2-dimensional. Now, let's imagine adding the 4th dimension. Here's what happens. The same thing occurs. We are now sliding toward the curvature of the dimensional space, space-time. But now, let's try to better understand the concept of the planet. So, imagine the planet surrounded by infinite trampolines, all around it. There are curves everywhere that make you slide. You have to add them all up, but to do that, you need to have enough mass to influence space-time. So, how do we get to a gun that creates portals in time? Well, Albert Einstein published the theory of general relativity in 1915, and he was convinced that no one would ever find an analytical solution. But actually, a few years later, in 1916, a man named Carl Schwarzschild observed that if you introduce an object with significant mass but a sufficiently small radius within the system, one of the terms in Einstein's equation becomes infinite, creating a singularity, which is a black hole. But let's get back to the gun. So, mathematically, there's a possibility that a black hole might have not just one exit to the outside, but two exits. It could become a tunnel. The gun has some very particular features. First of all, the portal is visible and rubbery. It's a basic idea, but generally, how is a wormhole seen? It's seen as a kind of door you walk through. But this idea is very simplistic. Because in the fourth dimension, a wormhole must be spherical, like the one in Interstellar. But still, it's very difficult to create one because it would need incredible gravity. So, let's imagine having a gun in real life and creating a wormhole. To cross it, I would have to do it immediately. Because, I don't know if it's clear, but the Earth is rotating and moving around the Sun. The Sun is moving and the galaxy is moving. So, if you lose even a microsecond, you end up in deep space and die a terrible death. But now let's talk about the multiverse, which is already another world. In movies, it's quite confusing, like the ones from Marvel and many others. But imagine it in reality. It's already a mess. And here, we return to the concept of the paradox, which we've already discussed on this channel in the Back to the Future video. If you're interested, click the button on the right. But in the animated series, their forms exist in all kinds, and they gather like a condo meeting and talk. So, if I meet myself from another universe, what happens? Now, let's start with the concept of the multiverse. Generally, in a movie, there are many universes, which are actually parallel realities where things change. So, scientifically, it could be possible. But there's a fascinating theory that says our entire universe originated from a Big Bang, where the Big Bang came from a point-like event, in which there was a particle that contained within it the energy of our universe, which then exploded at a certain point. But where did this happen? It happened in the white. Now, imagine everything is white. Let's call it hyperspace. But what is hyperspace? It's what's outside our universe, which doesn't make sense to us because it doesn't follow any physical laws. The physical laws we know are a consequence of the Big Bang and everything that exists in this universe. But when you move, there's nothing anymore. There's no matter, no dimensions, there's nothing. But it's not guaranteed that the Big Bang would occur in the same way. So, what happens in a Big Bang? Where you change a tiny variable that for us is a constant, but in this system becomes a variable. For example, if the value of the speed of light changes slightly, which is a constant in our universe, it would create a different value for the speed of light. How would everything change? It could happen that if you change one element in another universe, life itself might no longer exist. The anthropic principle is a philosophical and scientific theory that deals with the relationship between the observer and the universe. Essentially, it states that the physical laws and conditions of the universe are such that they allow for the existence of life, particularly human life. In other words, the anthropic principle suggests that the universe must have the right characteristics to support life. Because if it were different, we wouldn't be here to observe it. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's see the next video.